Hey, welcome back. I'm here today to do a review of Under the Never Sky. This is a YA debut novel by Veronica Rossi, and this book is a little bit dystopian, a little bit post-apocalyptic, fantasy, sci-fi. I mean, they had everything going on in this book, and I really enjoyed it. The world in this particular story, there's been some sort of apocalyptic event. The air outside is poisonous. There are these violent electrical storms called ether storms. The sky is basically lit up in colors and swirling electrical patterns, and it's described as looking very much like Vincent van Gogh's painting Starry Night. So really great visual image of what that's like outside. The people, because of the world being so inhospitable, have moved into pods, and they're living in pods spread out all over the place. And they communicate with each other by wearing these things called smart eyes, and it's like a device worn over the left eye. And these devices allow them to communicate with each other, to enter what they call the realms. These are like virtual reality worlds that they can create. They can create anything they want. It's described as being better than real because the real world basically sucks, as it's described here. So yeah, they're really interesting devices and stuff. So you have like that sci-fi element going on in there. This story is told by a narrator through two different perspectives, our two main protagonists. One is Arya, and she is a dweller who lives in one of these pods. And Peregrine, or Perry as he's known, is a savage. He lives out in the death shop, as the outside of the pods is known as. And out there it's, whereas Arya's world is all controlled and organized and safe, his world is more like animalistic, a struggle to survive, wild. That's where the fantasy elements come in. I mean, they have to hunt to survive. They shoot bows and arrows, fight with knives. They live in kind of these like tribes, kind of spread out all across the death shop. The story spends most of its time, I think, in the death shop, so you don't get an idea quite of what Arya's life was on a day-to-day basis in her pod. Her pod is known as Reverie. But I'm hoping maybe we'll get a little bit more in that in some of the sequels. But you do spend a lot more time outside in the death shop. Now, during the course of events of the story, fairly early on, Arya, who lives in the pod with her mother, has become separated from her mom. She's a scientist working on some kind of secret program or something. She doesn't share that information with her daughter. But she has been working in another pod known as Bliss, about 100 miles away. And her daughter loses contact with her mother. She's able to communicate all this time through that smart eye device, but suddenly there's no contact, there's no word, the government's not saying anything, there seems to have been some kind of major event has taken place, but no one's saying anything, so she's fearing for her mother's life, and is trying to find a way to get some information or find out what's going on. During the course of some events that take place very early on, she gets into some major trouble and is thrown out of her pod into the death shop. Fears she's going to die like right away from, all the poisonous atmosphere and storms and things that she's been told exist out there. Perry is also searching for a loved one, and during the course of the story, the two, their paths kind of become intertwined, and they realize that they're going to have to rely on each other if they're going to be able to save their loved ones. There is a relationship, obviously, love interest, romance kind of thing that develops in this, but it's not that insta-love. I mean, I've been hearing that term a lot lately in a couple different videos, which is kind of interesting, but it's definitely not an insta-love situation in this book. I mean, they hate each other. She refers to him as a savage. He calls her a mole because she lives underground. There's a lot of hate thing going on here. But I really thought this story moved at a really nice pace. There's a lot of action. It's not super fast, but it's spread out nicely throughout the book. There's the romantic elements again through it, but not overly mushy. Like I said, it takes quite a long time for a lot of that to develop. The world building was amazing. Like I said, at times I felt I was reading a sci-fi book and at times fantasy. I mean, it had like so much going on to this. There is a sequel coming out sometime next year. I don't have anything more specific date other than the title through the Evernight. And I'm really looking forward to following up the rest of the story and see where it goes. So if you haven't already purchased this or finally read it off your shelf, pick it up, read it. What are you waiting for? I don't know what I was waiting for. I really enjoyed this book. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the sequel. So hope you enjoyed it and start reading. See ya.